Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to this next series of guitar lessons. I hope that you're all doing really well. Thanks for coming back to check out this new series. And in this series, we're basically going to be taking a look at some really nice open chord voicings. So basically, we're going to be taking a look at kind of some really standard shapes that I'm sure all you guys know and love. You know, the C major, G major, E minor, A minor, all these really common shapes. And I'm going to be showing you guys some really nice, really pretty substitutions that you can play for these chords to, you know, add a little more complex sound. A lot of times add some more tones into the chord, and yeah, just get some really beautiful open chord voicing. So we're going to be taking a look at kind of the 5 most common keys that we use, like with open strings. So we're going to be taking a look at C, the key of C major, the key of G major, the key of D major, the key of A major, and then the key of E major to finish out with. So kind of going from no sharps to most sharps. I mean, basically, yeah, kind of the common keys that we use a lot of open strings with. So basically what we're going to be doing in this series of lessons is we are going to basically go through each key. We're going to not play the diminished chord for these keys, so we're going to start with just the 6 chords in there. So we're going to start with the major chord, the 1 major, the 2 and the 3 minor, the 4 and the 5 major, and then the 6 minor again. And then again, we're just going to drop out the diminished chord. We're not really going to take a look at that because I'm kind of approaching this again so you guys can just throw these into your playing. You know, if you're playing like, you know, something poppy or you know, something a little more contemporary, stuff like that. These are just going to kind of give you a lot more options, and a lot of times, you know, especially in your writing, hopefully these can inspire some new pieces for you guys, or you know, if you're a singer-songwriter or something like that, hopefully these chords can give you some really pretty new sounds to add into your playing. So at any rate, yeah, when we go through a key, we're going to go through the 6 chords in there, and I'm going to give you 2 really nice sounding substitutions for each chord. So I'm going to give you 2 substitutions for, well, today we're going to be taking a look at C major. So 2 substitutions for the C major chord, 2 for the D minor, 2 for the E minor, 2 for the F, and so on and so forth. So at the end of this lesson, you guys will have a lot of really beautiful sounding substitutions to be able to add into your playing, and add a lot more interest into your actual chord voicings. And also, just a really quick update, I'm going to kind of be breaking these lessons up as well. So, you know, basically I'm going to probably do this lesson for a couple weeks and then throw in like a gospel lesson or a lick lesson, just to kind of keep things interesting so we don't get stuck on one series for a super long time without throwing something else in for you guys. But yeah, this will basically be a 5-week course that we'll be going through basically 1 key a week. And yeah, taking a look at some really nice sounding substitutions, again, just to give you guys some more interest in your chordal playing. And hopefully, if you guys are stuck in a rut, you know, with your playing and trying to find some new sounds, this will kind of be the lesson that you guys are looking for. So yeah, without any further talking, let's get into some of these chord substitutions. Right, so we are going to start off with the 1 chord, so just C major. Again, we're just going to be in the key of C major today, okay? So obviously the C major chord that everyone knows and loves is just this old faithful voicing right here. Okay, so that's 3 of the A, 2 of the D, 1 of the B, and that's ring, middle, pointer. I'm sure all of you guys know this chord already. Okay, so great sounding chord voicing. Now a lot of you guys might already know this first substitution, but if you don't, it's just a great chord, just a great sounding chord. It's got a lot of power to it. Basically, all we're going to do is where your ring finger is right now on the 3rd fret of the A, we're going to put our pinky there instead, and then the ring finger is going to go to the 3rd fret of the low E. And we're going to be playing all 6. That's a C major with the 5th and the bass, or in 2nd inversion. We're not going to get too much into theory terms or anything like that for this lesson. Just know you can throw this in when you see a C major. Okay, and just as a little side note, I'll show you kind of some cool things to do with these chords as we're going through them as well. You can take your middle finger off, put it back on. You can take your pointer finger off, put it back on. You can take your middle and your pointer off together. You get some really pretty sounds. So, you know, just just a couple options you can do there with that C major. Okay, so that's kind of the first substitution. Again, that's a great kind of chord to end on. It's got a lot of power to it. It just sounds great. So let's move on to the next voicing now. And this is just basically going to be a C major again, but the tones are going to be a little bit different. So pointer finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the A, ring finger 5th fret of the D, and then pinky is going 5th fret of the B. And then the G string and the high E string are ringing out open, and we're not playing the low E. Okay, so there's that chord. I love this C major chord. It always sounds really nice. And the reason for this is we actually have a unison G note and a unison E note. So those two unison notes ringing out together give it a really airy, just beautiful sound. Okay, just one quick way we can change this shape around a little bit is we're going to put our pinky where our ring finger is and put our middle at the 3rd fret of the B, and all the strings are still ringing open and we're not playing the low E. So this first chord is just a standard C major. Okay, this is a C major, and we're adding in the 9 to it. Again, when you see a C major, when you're writing a song and you're playing a C major, just substitute this in. You don't have to totally understand the theory behind it, just know it's a nice chord. And you can move this around. Try moving this up to F, 8th fret, B flat, 1st fret, back up to C, to F, flat, C. Okay, so those are a couple of substitutions for C major. So again, it's a big powerful one where you can take those fingers off, put them back on. And then this C major up at the 3rd fret. And you can do this little substitute and make it an add 9. And then again, you can kind of move that around if you want to. Okay, so that's for C major. Let's move on to D minor now, the 2nd chord in the key, or the 2 chord, the 2 minor chord. Okay, most of you guys probably know this. We'll just go over it, just in case you don't. Middle finger, 2nd fret of the G, ring finger, 3rd fret of the B, pointer finger, 1st fret of the high E. Most of you guys have probably played this before. Okay, and all that we're going to do for our first substitution for D minor is we're going to take our ring finger off and have our pointer finger do a 2-string bar at the 1st fret of the B and in the high E strings. So now it becomes a minor 7 chord. And we can throw that A string in there if we want as well. And just so you guys don't get confused, I'm using my pinky just to kind of muffle that low E string. I'm not hitting it, but just in case, I want the assurance that I'm not going to get that kind of sound, just in case, you know, I'm really strumming this or something. I can also use like my thumb to keep that low E string muted. So again, just in case if I'm really strumming this or really rocking out, you know, I definitely don't want that low E ringing out. So that's first substitution for D minor. D minor 7 sounds really pretty. Okay, now play a regular D major shape. Okay, so 2nd fret of the G with your pointer, 3rd fret of the B with your ring, 2nd fret of the high E with your middle, and now move it all the way up to the 5th fret. So we're going to have 5 of the G, 6 of the B, and 5 of the high E, same shape. Okay, again I'm muting the low E with my thumb, and I can play this from the D string down or the A string down. Just depends if you want 4 or 5 notes in the chord, how big you want it to sound. And that's a D minor 7. Again, you can just throw this in when you see a D minor chord or you're writing a song or you're using a D minor chord. So, and something I've tried to do is have all these chords move nicely from one to the next. So this D minor, from down here, moves pretty nicely from this chord to this chord. So if you're writing a song and you're hanging on, say, D minor for a little bit, it should sound pretty nice to go from this one and then go up to this one, just to give yourself a little movement. Same with the C major, like if we take the 2nd shape we worked on, make it that add 9 shape. Should resolve pretty nicely down the first shape we looked at. So at any rate, that's the two substitutions for D minor. It's first D minor 7, and they're both minor 7 chords. Okay, lovely sounding chords. Let's now move on to our E minor chord, the 3 minor. So for E minor, first of all, we're going to take a look, just in case you guys don't know this, the E minor 7 that everyone knows and loves. It's an open low E, pointer finger 2nd fret of the A, middle finger 2nd fret of the D, open G string, ring 2nd fret, or excuse me, ring at the 3rd fret of the B, pinky at the 3rd fret of the high E. We're playing all 6 for that. This is a great one to use kind of that just taking a finger off and putting it back on kind of method. So take the middle finger off, take the ring finger off, back on, pinky off and then on, pinky and ring finger off then on. So nice sounds there. So that's kind of the first common substitution. Normally guys play E minor just like this. But basically we're making it an E minor 7. A lot of you guys have probably played this before too, but just for some guys that maybe haven't ever looked at this voicing, just want to make sure this is in there because this is kind of such an important chord voicing. Okay, so beautiful sound. So that's the first substitution for E minor 7. Again, this will work for any time you see an E minor when you're playing a song. Okay, now another E minor 7. This one's going to have just a slightly different sound. Pointer finger at the 2nd fret of the A, pinky all the way up at the 5th fret of the D. This might be a little bit of a stretch for you guys. Open G string, middle finger at the 3rd fret of the B, and then an open high E. Okay? So really nice sounding chord. And if we pick through it, again we have another unison note here. The G is a unison note, so if I pick through this, so it's just a killer sound. It sounds really, really good because again of that open G ringing out with the fretted G at the 5th fret of the D. And if we play these two chords next to each other, okay, here comes E minor 7 to the new shape, minor 7, okay, and then back to our second substitution. So they sound great, kind of played one after the next. So let's now move on to our F major substitutions, a 4 chord. Alright guys, so on to the F major. So first chord we're going to take a look at is an F major 9 in first inversion. Again, you don't have to worry about the theory of this at all. It's just a nice sounding chord. You can just try playing this when you see an F major, or if you're writing a song once again. So here's what we're going to have. Low E string is going to be muted once again with that thumb, just lightly touching it. We're going to have an open A string, ring at the 3rd fret of the D, an open G string, pointer at the 1st fret of the B, and then an open high E string. There's our chord. Really just a fantastic sounding voicing. It's really just kind of like a lush sound, and it's just, you know, it works to hang on and just kind of pick through for a while. Just sounds absolutely stunning. I love that voicing. Okay, we're going to do something pretty similar to this chord, except we're not going to have this A string ringing out anymore, and we're going to have a low F. Okay, so now I'm going to have pointer finger at the 1st fret of the low E. That pointer finger is going to be muting the A string as well, so it's just going to be kind of lightly touching it, which, you know, shouldn't be too much of a problem. Pinky finger is going to be at the 3rd fret of the D. I have an open G, middle finger at the 1st fret of the B, and then an open high E, and here's what we'll get. Okay, so really a beautiful sound once again, and that sounds great for picking through, and that's kind of an major 9, I guess, no third, you could think of it as. Again, just try throwing this in when you see an F major. Okay, so a really nice sounding chord. Okay, let's move on to G major now, the 5 chord, the 5 major chord of the key. Most guys play a standard G like this. Okay, so that's ring 3rd fret of the low E, middle 2nd fret of the A, D, G, and B are open, and then pinky at the 3rd fret of the high E. Okay, now what I'm going to do to this is I'm actually going to take my middle finger off from the standard voicing, and I'm going to use my ring finger to just keep that A string just muted. Okay, I'm going to put my pointer finger at the 1st fret of the B, which gives us like a suspended sound. And again, if you don't know the theory behind this, that's fine, but you can tell this really wants to do this. So this is almost like a 2-part substitution. Normally I wouldn't just totally hang on this sus chord, I'd probably resolve it by just taking my pointer finger off. And then I'm left with just a standard G major chord. You can hear how nice that sounds if I just kind of swell into it. Okay, so that's a great sounding chord. Okay, so again, that's a substitute for a G major when you see that coming your way. Now here is basically the next substitute, the second substitute for G major is just a really big G power chord. So this whole chord is just composed of the root and the 5th, and it sounds really open, really spacious, and really, really pretty. So basically, here's what we're going to have. It's going to be kind of an awkward chord for you guys, but it's really pretty and it's worth putting some time into getting this one down. So we're going to have middle at the 3rd of the low E, pinky 5th of the A. Now the D and the G are going to be ringing open. Then pointer finger is doing a 2-string bar at the 3rd fret of the B and the G string. And we end up with this chord, which I absolutely love. Okay, now once again, this D gives us like an open, like a unison note there, which sounds really, really pretty. So here's a D that we're fretting, along with the open D string. And you can see this whole chord is just a bunch of G's and D's. So you have G, D, D again, G, D, and then another G note. This one works to move around the fretboard as well, so let's move this up to the 6th fret, to B flat, down to the 1st fret, down to F. Move this all the way up to C, at the 8th fret, back down to G. So that's another fun one that you can kind of move around and try to get some cool sounds out of it, see what you can end up with. That's a really fun, just big open chord voicing to experiment with. Okay, now A minor. Most of you guys probably know this voicing, but just in case, no low E string, open A string, middle 2nd of the D, ring 2nd of the G, pointer 1st of the B, and open high E string. Okay, now the substitution for this, first of all, we're going to take our ring finger off, A minor 7, I'm sure you guys have played this shape before. The next part we're going to add to this is adding the pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E. Love that chord, it sounds so good. I love that 7th being on top there. So again, you can just throw this in when you see an A minor coming your way. Okay, the next shape is going to be basically like an A minor 11. So what we're going to have here is we're going to have the open A string again, no low E. So open A string. We're going to have the ring finger at the 5th fret of the D. We're going to have the pinky at the 5th fret of the G. Pointer at the 3rd fret of the B, and then an open high E string. Again, that's a substitute for A minor 11. Okay, so let's go down to the first substitute. Okay, up to the second, down to first again, down to the second. You can hear how nicely those transition from one chord to the next. They make just a really pretty transition. So they sound great going from one chord to the next. Here's that A minor 7 and the A minor 11. Just as a quick side note, if you're on like a really tense kind of dark sounding minor chord, from this A minor 11 you can just take your pointer finger off. You get like an A minor 9. Again, you can just try throwing that in when you see an A minor, or you're writing a song that uses an A minor. It's A minor 11, A minor 7. Okay, so those are basically 2 substitutes, maybe a little more, for every chord in the key of C major, just excluding the diminished chord, the 7 chord. So what you guys can do from there is just go around and experiment getting comfortable with these. And they're not just limited to C major either. I mean, if you use a capo with these at the 1st fret, then you're going to be obviously in the key of D flat major, and you can use all these same shapes, that we just went through, just thinking more in numbers. So, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, the 4 chord. And then, if you need a D major, you could capo at the 2nd fret, and then you'd be in the key of D major, and you could go through all your chord substitutions once again and kind of, still get all these really pretty voicings. So again, it's not just limited to down here. If you throw a capo on, you can get these chord voicings in any key you need. And these can sound really good if you capo high up the fretboard too. So if you capo like in the key of G major way up here and use these exact same chords and the forms that we had just kind of gone over, you can still get some really great sounds. So the next part would just be using these in actual progression. So maybe let's take A minor 7, substitution we looked at, to F major 9. Okay, that first substitution that we had looked at. And then that C major with the 5th and the bass. You can take that middle finger off, back on. Okay, to that D minor, first substitution. To the G major, first substitution, resolving it. We're going back to our C major with the 5th and the bass. So just kind of a quick example of a little progression you could do there. But obviously you guys should experiment with these, come up with your own ideas. And yeah, just try throwing these into your writing, your playing, when you're playing through songs that you know, or when you're writing a song that you know. Hopefully this will come up with some new ideas for you, and this can also kind of help you come up with some really neat vocal melodies as well that you guys can use in your songs. So yeah, this is kind of the first part of the lesson. Next time we'll be taking a look at the key of G major and some really nice substitutions in there, and obviously G major is a super popular key, so I'm sure that'll be pretty useful for a lot of you guys. So yeah, thanks for coming by and checking out this lesson, and I will see you guys again next week for the next part of the series. Thanks so much, everyone.